Par Ashvatarashvatashmat Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashvatarashvatashmat Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashvatarashvatashmat Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashvatarashvatashmat Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupar Ashvatarashvatashmat Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Maha-Bhagavat Srila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadasha Gunashar Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shyama Kund ki jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Shri Kartik Vrat ki jai. Vrat Palan Kari Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Urjeshwari Shri Vrishabhanu Nandini Shrimati Radha Thakurani ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hari Bo Raseshwari Mataji. Where is it? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitangscha Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine Shri Krishna Lila Kathane Sudaksham Audarya Madhurya Gunaishcha Yuktam Varam Varanyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Tam Shirasa Namami Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Shri Keshava Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Vamaniti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Acharya Singharupine Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Iti Namine Atimartya Charitraya Swashritanang Chapaline Jiva Dukhe Sadartaya Shri Nama Premadayine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitai Kripabdhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktira Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Siddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhode Padam Pujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachirananda Namine Gaura Shakti Sarupaya Rupanugavarayate Gauravyar Bhava Bhumistang Nirdeshta Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sarva Bhuma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Dadati Svapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nityananda Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayine Kalo Kalmasha Nashaya Janava Pataye Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayatang Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvasva Padam Bhujo Radha Madana Mohano Devyad Vrindaranyakalpadrumada Śrīmad Ratnagara Singhasanasto Śrīmad Radha Śrīla Govinda Devo Prishtalavi Sevamano Smarami Śrīman Rasarasarambhi Vangshivata Tatastitaha Karshan Venu Swanergopir Gopinata Shriestuna Anga Shamalima Chata Bhiravito Mandi Kritendi Varam Jadyam Jagurorochisham Vidadatam Patam Barasya Shriya Vrindaranya Vilasinam Hridilasar Damabhiramodaram Radha Skanda Niveshito Jvalabhujam Dhyayem Damodaram Vrindayai Tulasidevai Priyayai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Padadevi Satavatai Namo Namaha Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. 1 second, I'm just taking some water. Davanala sama sangsara dahane Dagda jiva kulayo darakarane Karuna varida kripa varidani bandi Guna sindhu guru charana kamala Nritya gita vadya Shri Hari kirtane Rahe namagana mahamata mane Romanchakam pashu hoya gora preme Vandishe guru charana kamala Sadarata jini vigraha sevane Shingarati ar mandira marjane Karena niyukta anugata jane Vanti she guru charana kamala Charva chushaleya peya rasamay Prasadana krishna rati swaduhoy Bhaktaya svadane nija triptaroy Vandishe guru charana kamala Shri Radha Madhava Namarupa gune Ananta madhurya leela ashvadane Lubdha chitta jinihana pratikshane Vandishe guru charana kamala Vraja yuva danda rati sambardhane Yukti kore saki gane vrindavane Ati dakshata he priyatama gane Vandishe guru charana kamala Sarva shastre gashi harir swarupa Bhakta gana bhave she anurupa Kintu jini prabhu priyatama rupa Vandishe guru charana kamala Jahara prasade Krishna kripa pai Jara prasade anyagati nai Trisandhya ke tirastava dhane bhai Vandishe guru charana kamala Guru devashtakayati jatna kori Brahma muhurte pore ucha kori Vrindavana nai Shakshat Shri Hari Seva paishe vastu siddhi kale Vandishe guru charana kamala Vandishe guru charana kamala Guru deva jaya Guru deva Guru deva jaya Guru deva Jai Guru deva Guru deva Guru deva jaya Guru deva Krishna hoite chaturmukha Hoy Krishna sevan mukha Brahma hoite narate ramati Narada hoite vyasa Madhva kohe vyasa dasa Puna pragya padmana bhagati Nrihari madhava vangshe Akshavya paramahanse Shishya boli angikara kore Akshavya shishya jaya Tirtha name parichaya Tarda se jnana sindhu tore Taha hoite daya nidhi Tarda saveda nidhi Rajendra hoilo taha hoite Tahara kinkara jaya Dharma name parichaya Parampara jana bhala mate Jaya dharma dasya khyati Shri Purushottama jati ता होते ब्रह्मण्य तीर्थ सूरी व्यास तीर्थ तार दास लक्ष्मीपति व्यास दास ताहा होते मारवेंद्रपुरी मारवेंद्रपुरी वर शिष्य वर श्री ईश्वर नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत विभो ईश्वरपुरी के धन्य कोरिलेन श्री चैतन्य जगद्गुरु गौर महाप्रभु महाप्रभु श्री चैतन्य राधा कृष्ण हे अन्य रूपनुग जनेर जीवाना विश्वाम्बर प्रियंकार श्री स्वरूप दामोदर श्री गोस्वामी रूप सनातन रूप प्रिय महाजन जीव रघुनाथन तार प्रिय कवि कृष्णदास कृष्णदास प्रिय वर नरोत्तम सेवा पर जार पर विश्वनाथ यश विश्वनाथ भक्त सात बलदेव जगन्नाथ तार प्रिय श्री भक्ति विनोदा महाभागवत वर श्री गौर किशोर वर हरि भजने ते जार मोरा शिवा श्रवण विवर सदा सेवा सेवा पारा ताहार दायित्व दास नाम प्रभु परा अंतरंग श्री स्वरूप रूपनुग श्री केशव भक्ति प्रज्ञान गौरीय वेदांत वेता माया वारत महंत गौरवाणी प्रचराचर धामा प्रचारिल गौरवाणी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी पुराइल प्रभुपादेर काम केशव प्रिय महाजा वामन नारायण गौरवाणी तादे प्राण धाना ए सब हरि जान गौरांगे निज जान तादेरा उचिष्टे मोरा काम गुरु परंपरा गुरु परंपरा परंपरा गुरु परंपरा गुरु परंपरा गुरु परंपरा परंपरा गुरु परंपरा वृंदावन वासी जत वैष्णवेर गान प्रथमे वंदना करी सबर चरण अनिलाचल वासी जत महाप्रभुर गान भूमिते पड़िया वंदो सबर चरण नवद्वीप वासी जत महाप्रभुर भक्त सभार चरण वंद होयानुरक्त महाप्रभुर भक्त जत कोर देशे स्थिते सभार चरण वंद करिया प्रणाति जे देशे बैसे गौरांगेर गान ऊर्ध्व बाहु करी बंद सभार चरण होयाचे न होइबेन प्रभुर जत दास सभार चरण वंदो तंते कोरी घास ब्राह्मण तारिते शक्ति धारे जाने जाने एवेरा पुराने गुण गाय जे बशोने महाप्रभुर गान सब पतित पावन ताई लोबे मोए पापी लइनु शरण वंदना करिते मोए कत शक्ति धरी तम बुद्धि दोषे मोए दंभ मात्र करी तथापि मुखेर भाग्य मनेरा उल्लास तो सक्षमी मोवता में करने जदास sarvavansha siddhi hoy, jama bandha chute, jagate dulabha hoya prem dhana lute, manira vasana purna achirate hoya, devaki nandana dasa elo bekoya jaya, Vaishnav Thakur jaya, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur jaya, Vaishnav Thakur, jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur jaya, Vaishnav Thakur. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Kore Sapashara Shri Adhama Sahayavatari Atyanta Dulabha Prema Koribare Dana Shikhaya Sharanagati Bhakatera Prana Danyayatma Nivedana Goprite Varana Avasharakshive Krishna Vishvasa Palana O Bhakti Anukula Matra Karyera Shikara Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanangikara Sharanga Sharanagati Horibe Jahara Tahara Prarthana Shune Śrīnanda Kumara Rupa Sanatana Pare Dante Trina Kore Bhakti Vinoda Pare Dohu Pada Dhore Kandiya Kandiya Bole Ami Toya Dhama Shikhaye Sharanagati Koro He Utama Jai Sapashara Jaya Gora Hari Sapashara Jaya Gora Hari Jai Sapashara Jaya Gora Hari Sapashara Gora Hari. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Mana Manasa Madhukara Marpaya Nijapada Panka Jamakarande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Yadapi Samadhishu Vidirapi Pashati Natavanakagramarichin Idame Chami Nishamata Vachuta Tarapi Kriparbhuta Vichin Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Bhakti Rudan Chati Yadapi Madhava Natvai Mamatila Matri Parameshwarata Tarapita Vadika Durgata Ghatanavi Bhatri Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Ayam Avilolata Sanatana Kalitar Bhutarasa Bhara Nevasatu Nitame Amritane Dine Vindana Madhuri Masara Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande, oh Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Damodara Radhe, Vardhanare She Hari Nishkuta Vindavipine She. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Vrishabhanudar Dhenavashashi Leke, Lalita Sakhi Guna Ramita Vishakhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Karunam Gurumaye Karuna Bhare, Te Sanakasanatana, Hovarnita Charite, O Karunam Kurumai Karuna Bhare, Te Sanaka Sanatana, Varnita Charite. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Namami Nandanandanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Sucharu Vaktramandalam, Sukarnaratna Kundalam, Sucharchitanga Chandanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Sudirga Netra Pankajam, Shikishikandamurdajam, Ananga Koti Mohanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Sunasikagram Swachandradanta Panktikam, Navam Bhudanga Chikanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Karena Venuranjitam, Kati Karendra Ganjitam, Dukula Pitta Shobhanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Trivanga Deha Sundaram, Nakadute Sudakaram, Amulya Ratna Bhushanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Sugandhayanga Saurabham, Urovirajikostubham, Spruvratshrivatsalanchanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Vrindavana Sunakaram, Vilasano Gavasasam, Surendra Garbhamochanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Rajangana Sunayakam, Sada Sukha Pradayakam, Jaganmana Pralobhanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Śrīnanda-nandana-ashtakam, Patedya Shadayanvita, Tarir Bhavabdim Dustaram, Labhetarangri Yukmakam. Namami Nandanandanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Namami Nandanandanam Munindra Vrindavandite Triloka Shokaharini Prasanna Bhaktra Pankaje Nikunja Bhovilasini Rajendra Bhanu Nandini Rajendra Sunu Sangate Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Ashoka Vriksha Vallari Vitana Mandapasite Pravala Vala Pallava Prabharunangri Komale Parabhaya Spurat Kare Prabhuta Sampadalaye Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Anangaranga Mangala Prasanga Bhangura Bhruvam Savibhramang Sasambhramang Triganta Bana Patanai Nirantaram Vashikrita Pratiti Nandanandane Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Tarit Suvarna Champaka Pradipta Gora Vigrahe Mukha Prabha Parasta Koti Sharadendu Mandale Vichitra Chitra Sanchara Chakora Shavalochane Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Madon Madati Yovane Pramoramana Mandite Priyanuraga Ranjite Kala Vilasa Pandite Ananya Dhanya Kuncha Raja Kama Keliko Vide Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Ashesha Hava Bhavadira Hirahara Bhushite Prabhuta Shata Kumbha Kumbha Kumbhi Kumbha Sustani Prashasamandaha Sachurna Purna Sokya Sagare Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Mrinala Vala Vallari Taranga Ranga Dolate Latagra Lasya Lola Nila Lochana Valokane Lala Lolan Nilan Manogya Mugdha Mohanashrite Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Suvarna Malikanchita Trireka Kambukanthage Trisutra Mangali Guna Triratna Dipti Diditi Salola Nila Kuntala Prasuna Gucha Gumfite Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Nitamba Bimbalamba Mana Pushpame Kalagune Aprashastaratna Kinkini Kalapamadya Manjule Karindra Shunda Dandika Varohaso Bhagoruke Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Aneka Mantra Naramanjuno Purara Vaskalat Samaja Raja Hangsa Vangshane Panati Gorave Vilola Hema Valari Vidambi Charu Chankrame Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Ananta Koti Vishnu Loka Namra Parmajarshite Himadrija Pulo Maja Virincha Javara Prade Apara Siddhire Didivda Satpadanguli Nakhe Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanamapeshwari Kriyeshwari Sareshwari Sureshwari Triveda Bharatishwari Pramana Shashaneshwari Rameshwari Kshameshwari Pramora Kananeshwari Vrajeshwari Vrajadipe Shri Radhike Namostute Iti mama Adbhutam stavam nishamya bhanunandini karotu santatam janam kripa kataksha bhajanam Pavetadaiva sanchita trirupa karmanashanam Pavetada vrajendra sunamandala praveshanam kada karishyasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam. Namamishwaram Sachiranandarupam Lasat kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashodabiyo Lukha Ladhavamanam Paramrishtam Adyan Tatodruta Gopa Rudantamohur Netra Yugmam Mrijantam Karam Bhoja Yugmena Satanka Netra Moshvasa Kampa Trirekanka Kanta Stita Graivadamo Daram Bhakti Obadam Nama Mishwaram Sachirananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Iti drik salilabhi Ananda punde Swagoshani majantam Akhyapayantam Tadiyeshita geshu Abhakterjita Puna prematasam Shatabriti Vande Varam Deva Moksham Namoksha Vadimba Nachanyam Vrineham Varisharapiha Aidante Vapurnata Gopala Balam Sadame Manasya Virastam Kimanyay Nama Vishwaram Sachiranandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Idam te mukam bhojam avyakta nilay Vritam kuntala snigdarakta ishtagopya Mohushum vitam pimparakta dharanme Manasya virastam alam nakshalabhay Namadeva damodarananta Vishnu Tasira prabodukha jalabhimanam Vipadishti drishtati dinabhatano Grihanisha mamagyame dakshidrisha Nama nisharam sachiranandarupam Lasakundalam kokule brajamanam Kuveratmajo badha murtai vayadvat Kayamachito bhakti bhajo krito cha Tatha prema bhakti sakame prayacha Namakshe graho mesti damo tareha Namamishwaram Sachiranandarupam Alasakundalam Gokule Brajamana. Namaste Studame Spuradipidame Tadiyadarayata Vishwasadhame Namaradhikayai Tadiyapriyayai Namanantalilai Devaya Dobhyam Namaradhikayai Tadiyapriyayai Namaradhikayai Tadiyapriyayai Namaradhikayai Tadiyapriyayai Namaradhikayai Tadiyapriyayai Namananta Lilaya Devaya Tobhyam Namananta Lilaya Devaya Tobhyam Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Damodara Radha Damodara Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Jai Shri Sachinanda Gaur Hari Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar Ju Ki Jai Srila Gurudev Ki Jai Srila Param Gurudev Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Swaparshad Shri Gaurnityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopigan Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Samagat Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Dandavat pranams are Seshwari Mataji, Prajumna Prabhu, and Indira Mataji Harivo. So now it's been, I think, a couple weeks or more than a couple weeks. I think. Yeah, I think it's been a day after, no, about a couple weeks since we've, that we had a break in reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So we definitely need a recap. Oh, Haribo, Madhavi Didi, Dandavat Pranams, Haribo. So I think what I'll do is I'll read from this book, Bhagavat Pravaha, just to get a recap of everything. But let's do Mangala Charan first. 1 second, let me open that up. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad-Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo mahavadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna chaitanya namne gauratishe namaha. Guruve gaurachandraya radhikaya tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna bhaktaya tarbhaktaya namo namaha. Yam pravrajantam anupetam apeta kritam dvaipayano viraha katara ajuhava putreti tanmayataya taravo bhinedu stang sarva bhuta hridayam munimanatosmi Narayanam namaskrityam narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Shinvatang swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana Hridantasto hyabhadrani vidhunoti suhritsatam Nashta prayeshvavadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki Tavaivasmi na jivami tvaya vina Iti vigyaya radhe tvam nayamam charanantikam Bhakta vihina aparada lakshay Kshiptashtakama aditaranga madhe Kripa maitam sharanam prapanna vrinde namaste charanaravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so Canto 7. The 7th and 8th cantos of the Bhagavatam represent the arms of the Supreme Lord. The 7th canto describes uti, or inclination, which is of two types, auspicious and inauspicious. Our inclinations lead us to perform pious and impious acts, which become the cause of our future happiness and distress in various births. The inauspicious inclinations of Hiraṇyakaśipu were caused by the anger of the 4 Kumaras, who cursed Jaya and Vijay to fall to the material world. The auspicious inclination for pure bhakti of Prahlāda arose from the mercy of Narad Muni, who enlightened Prahlāda when he was still in his mother's womb. This canto describes 2 types of bhakti. 1. Shuddha bhakti, or pure devotional service of the pure devotional service of Prahlāda, and 2. Mishra bhakti, or mixed devotional service, bhakti mixed with karma and jnana, of persons following varnashram, as instructions of Narad Muni to King Yudhishthira describe. Prahlāda's teachings through his personal conduct and his devotional prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev are by far the most enlivening section of this canto. How did Lord Vishnu, who is equal and dear to all, take sides with Indra and kill the demons as if he were biased? Parikshit Maharaj inquired from Shukadeva Goswami. The Lord killed Hiranyaksha and Hiraṇyakaśipu as Varaha and Nrsimha respectively to favor Indra, apparently acting partially toward the demigods and inimical towards the demons. Although Parikshit knew of the Lord's impartial nature, He desired to relish the nectar of conclusion from the mouth of Shukadeva, and thus inquired from him about the Lord's apparent partiality. Shukadeva appreciated Parikshit's question. Your question is about the wonderful qualities of Lord Hari. It will reveal the glories of devotees and increase one's bhakti, Shukadeva then narrated. Why does God seem partial? Partiality is exhibited only under the influence of material modes. Lord Vishnu is unborn, aja, devoid of material qualities, nirguna, and transcendental to material nature, prakriti para. Consequently, he cannot be partial. He creates the time factor to control his universal creation. Due to the influence of time, when sattva gun becomes prominent, the demigods flourish. Similarly, when raja and tamaguns are prominent, the demons flourish. But the Lord is neutral and equal to everyone. Yet he is especially inclined to his devotees, or demigods, reciprocating with their devotion and surrender. However, even when he punishes and kills the demons, he does so out of his mercy for them, and thus grants them liberation. The Lord's inimical actions are not displays of enmity towards his so-called enemies. One thinks so only out of ignorance. To elaborate on this subject of the Lord's impartial nature, Shukadeva Goswami narrated the following conversation between King Yudhishthira and Narad Muni that constitutes the subject matter of the entire 7th canto. Formerly, at the Rajasuya sacrifice, Yudhishthira had offered first worship to Lord Krishna. Envious Shishupal couldn't tolerate that, and he blasphemed Krishna in many ways, despite the opposition of the assembly members. Finally, Krishna beheaded Shishupal with his Sudarshan chakra and liberated him. Shishupal merged into the body of Krishna, Sayuja Mukti, right in front of everyone's eyes. Seeing this, Yudhishthira was struck with wonder and asked Narad Muni, "This is extremely surprising. How is it that a willful offender like Shishupal has attained Lord Vasudeva, which is an impossible achievement for even great endeavoring spiritualists? Formerly, King Bain went to hell for blaspheming the Lord, but sinful Shishupal, who blasphemed Krishna right from his childhood, entered the body of Krishna. How is this ever possible?" Narad replied to Yudhishthira's inquiry as follows. There's Yudhishthira Maharaj, there's Narad. And I guess that's Krishna. The material body is meant to experience dualities of blasphemy and praise under the influence of Maya. The conditioned soul identifies with the body and its belongings and considers people to be friends and enemies. But the Lord has no material body, so he is unaffected by dualities of honor and dishonor. Even one who criticizes Krishna is purified and liberated by his mercy. If that criticism leads to complete absorption in Krishna. But if such criticism doesn't lead to absorption, the criticizer goes to hell. Constant thinking of Krishna with devotion or enmity frees one from all sin and enables one to regain one's spiritual body. The gopis attained Krishna by love, Kamsa by fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, the Yadus by familial relationship, the Pandavas by affection, and the general devotees by devotional service. Thus, when the mind is somehow or other fully absorbed in Krishna, the material part is very soon vanquished, and the spiritual part, attraction to Krishna, becomes fully manifest. Shishupal's anger or envy towards Krishna led him to deep and constant absorption in Krishna. Thus he was liberated. In his previous life, he was actually a devotee of Lord Vishnu. Jaya and Vijay, the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, were once cursed by the 4 Kumars and took 3 births as the demons Hiranyaksha and Hiraṇyakaśipu. Hiranyaksha and Hiraṇyakaśipu, Ravan and Kumbhakarna, Shishupal and Dantavakra. Jaya and Vijay actually came to the material world as demons to fulfill the Lord's desire to fight and experience the mellow of chivalry. Hearing this, Yudhishthira inquired from Narad about Hiraṇyakaśipu, who tormented his virtuous son Prahlāda, and was thus killed by Lord Nrsimha. He also asked how Prahlāda became such a great devotee. Narad Muni narrated as follows. Lamentation and pacification. Hiraṇyakaśipu, the king of demons, was grief-stricken when his brother Hiranyaksha was killed by Lord Varaha. Intending to kill Vishnu, he instructed the demons. Influenced by Maya, that Vishnu has given up neutrality, just as a restless child takes sides. I shall behead that diplomatic Vishnu with my trident, and please my brother with his blood. When he is killed, the demons will wither away, just as when a tree's root is cut, the branches and twigs dry up. Immediately go and destroy everyone who is engaged in austerity, sacrifice, Vedic study, and so on. Destroy places wherever there are cows, Brahmins, Yagyas, and Dharma. Hiraṇyakashipu desired to kill Vishnu by destroying Brahminical culture, and as a side benefit, destroy all the demigods. The demons, who were inherently fond of destructive activities, started persecuting the citizens. They set fire to the cities, villages, pasturing grounds, cow pens, gardens, agricultural fields, and natural forests, and so on. They banned all sacrifices. As a result, the demigods didn't get their oblations and left heaven in fear. Hiraṇyakashipu, in order to pacify his mother Diti and other relatives, narrated the story of King Suyagya. Suyagya was the king of Ushinar. When he was killed in battle, his queens lamented in separation from him. They didn't allow his dead body to be burnt, even though the sun was about to set. Their cries even reached Yamaraj, who then came in the form of a boy to advise them. Yamaraj told them, "There is no exception for death. The same soul migrates in bodies of different species that appear and disappear by the karmas of the jiva. But the soul identifies with the body and bodily relationships due to ignorance. It is as foolish as a householder thinking himself identical with the house. O fools, your lamentation is contradictory. Those who are in knowledge of the eternal soul and perishable body don't lament. Once, a hunter captured a female kulinga bird in his net. Seeing his wife in danger, the male bird lamented inconsolably. Meanwhile, the hunter killed him too. O foolish women, even if you lament for hundreds of years, this dead body will not come to life, while the person within the body has already moved on in his journey onwards. In the meantime, your own life is running out." Everyone was struck with wonder hearing the boy. Yamaraj then disappeared, and Suyagya's relatives completed the funeral. Therefore, don't be aggrieved from the death of Hiranyaksha. Hearing these words of Hiranyakashipu, Diti and the others became pacified and attempts to become immortal. Despite speaking lofty philosophy, Hiranyakashipu still desired to be immortal, unconquerable, and the sole king of the entire universe. He thus performed severe austerities in the valley of Mandara mountain to please Lord Brahma. He stood on his toes, keeping his arms upwards, looking toward the sky for endless years. This caused great disturbances all over the universe, and the demigods informed Lord Brahma of Hiranyakashipu's intentions. Brahma then went to see Hiranyakashipu, whose body was by then covered in an anthill, and whose skin, fat, flesh, and blood had all been devoured by the ants. Brahma said, "It's astonishing to see your endurance. In spite of being bitten by so many insects, your life air is circulating within your bones. Who can sustain life, even without water, for 100 celestial years? Your unprecedented austerity has conquered me. I will give you all benedictions." Hiranyakashipu praised Brahma in several ways. Anticipating Brahma's inability to bestow immortality, as he himself wasn't immortal, Hiranyakashipu schemed a boon out of him as follows. Let me not meet death from any being created by you, within or without any house, during the daytime or at night, on the grounds or in the sky, by any weapon, human being or animal, from any living or non-living entity, by any demigod or demon or snakes. Let me not have any rival, Give me sole lordship over all planets. Give me all the mystic powers. Obliged, Brahma granted these rare boons to Hiraṇyakaśipu. Indisputably powerful, Hiraṇyakaśipu conquered all directions, oppressed the demigods, usurped sacrificial shares, and made everyone forcefully worship him. He controlled even all natural phenomenon. He resided in Indra's heavenly palace, always intoxicated with his eyes rolling. In spite of enjoying all kinds of sense gratification, he was always dissatisfied due to uncontrolled senses. He thus passed a long time, being proud of his opulence and transgressing the injunctions for living. Everyone was distressed by his tortures. The fearful demigods ultimately took shelter of Lord Vishnu. The Lord reassured the demigods. When Hiraṇyakaśipu unleashes atrocities on his noble son Prahlāda, I shall kill him despite the benedictions of Brahma. Hiraṇyakaśipu had 4 sons. The best of them was Prahlāda, the reservoir of divine qualities. Prahlāda was an unalloyed devotee of Lord Vishnu. He was kind, self-controlled, respectful, humble, unagitated, and detached. Although born in the family of demons, Prahlāda was devoid of demoniac qualities. Prahlāda, being naturally attracted towards Lord Vasudeva, was uninterested in childish playthings. His mind was fully absorbed in and overcome by Krishna, whom he saw everywhere due to his love. Being always embraced by Lord Govinda, Prahlāda was not aware of his actions such as sitting, walking, eating, lying down, drinking, and talking, which were being automatically performed. He would cry, laugh, be joyful, dance, imitate the Lord's pastimes, shed tears, and display symptoms of ecstasy. Little Prahlāda, hardly 5 years old, was sent to school where the children of demons studied. Okay, so I think we've read up to this point. Let's open up Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Seventh canto, 5th verse. Oh, and I'm probably not going to read everything today like that I was planning on, just because I didn't realize how long that recap would be. Let's see though. Oops, it's the wrong. Oh, shoot, that's 6th canto. Whatever. I think it ends with a question though. Whatever. Okay, let's just start. It's getting late. Prahlāda, so chapter 5, Prahlāda Maharaj, the saintly son of Hiraṇyakaśipu. Chapter 5. Prahlāda Maharaj did not carry out the orders of his teachers. Oh wait, did I leave this on? Sorry, one second. I did. Let me put that off. There. Okay. Prahlāda Maharaj did not carry out the orders of his teachers, for he was always engaged in worshipping Lord Vishnu. As described in this chapter, Hiraṇyakaśipu tried to kill Prahlāda Maharaj, even by having a snake bite him and by putting him under the feet of elephants. Yet he was unsuccessful. Hiraṇyakashipu's spiritual master Śukrācārya had 2 sons, named Śaṇḍa and Amarka, to whom Prahlāda Maharaj was entrusted for education. Although the teachers tried to educate the boy Prahlāda in politics, economics, and other material activities, he did not care for their instructions. Instead, he continued to be a pure devotee. Prahlāda Maharaj never liked the idea of discriminating between one's friends and enemies. Because he was spiritually inclined, he was equal toward everyone. Once upon a time, Hiraṇyakashipu inquired from his son what the best thing was that he had learned from his teachers. Prahlāda Maharaj replied that a man engrossed in the material consciousness of duality, thinking, "This is mine, and that belongs to my enemy," that person should give up his householder life and go to the forest to worship the Supreme Lord. When Hiraṇyakashipu heard from his son about devotional service, he decided that the small boy had been polluted by some friend in school. Thus he advised the teachers to take care of the boy so that he would not become a Krishna-conscious devotee. However, when the teachers inquired from Prahlāda Maharaj why he was going against their teachings, Prahlāda Maharaj taught the students that the mentality of ownership is false, and that he was therefore trying to become an unalloyed devotee of Lord Vishnu. The teachers, being very angry at this answer, chastised and threatened the boy with many fearful conditions. They taught them to the best of their ability, and then brought him before his father. Hiraṇyakashipu affectionately took his son Prahlāda on his lap, and then inquired from him what the best thing was that he had learned from his teachers. As usual, Prahlāda began praising the 9 processes of devotional service, such as Shravanam and Kirtanam. Thus, the king of demons, Hiraṇyakashipu, being extremely angry, chastised the teachers Śaṇḍa and Amarka for having wrongly trained Prahlāda Maharaj. The so-called teachers informed the king that Prahlāda Maharaj was automatically a devotee and did not listen to their instructions. When they proved themselves innocent, Hiraṇyakashipu inquired from Prahlāda where he had learned about Vishnu Bhakti. Prahlāda Maharaj replied that those who are attached to family life do not develop Krishna consciousness, either personally or collectively. Instead, they suffer repeated birth and death in this material world and continue simply chewing the chewed. Prahlāda explained that the duty of every man is to take shelter of a pure devotee and thus become eligible to understand Krishna consciousness. Enraged at this answer, Hiraṇyakashipu threw Prahlāda Maharaj from his lap. Since Prahlāda was so treacherous that he had become a devotee of Vishnu, who had killed his uncle Hiranyaksha, Hiraṇyakashipu asked his assistants to kill him. The assistants of Hiraṇyakashipu struck Prahlāda with sharp weapons, threw him under the feet of elephants, subjected him to hellish conditions, threw him from the peak of a mountain, and tried to kill him in thousands of other ways. But they were unsuccessful. Hiraṇyakashipu therefore became increasingly afraid of his son. Prahlāda Maharaj and arrested him. The sons of Hiranyakashipu's spiritual teacher, Śukrācārya, began teaching Prahlāda in their own way, but Prahlāda Maharaj did not accept their instructions. While the teachers were absent from the classroom, Prahlāda Maharaj began to preach Krishna consciousness in the school, and by his instructions, all his class friends, the sons of the demons, became devotees like him. Shri Narada Uvacha Porohityaya Bhagavan Vritta Kavya Kilasurai Śaṇḍa Suto Tasya Daitya Raja Grihantike. The great saint Narad Muni said, "The demons, headed by Hiranyakashipu, accepted Śukrācārya as their priest for ritualistic ceremonies. Śukrācārya's 2 sons, Śaṇḍa and Amarka, lived near Hiranyakashipu's palace." Purport. The beginning of the life story of Prahlāda is recounted as follows. Śukrācārya became the priest of the atheists, especially Hiranyakashipu, and thus his 2 sons, Śaṇḍa and Amarka, resided near Hiranyakashipu's residence. Śukrācārya should not have become the priest of Hiranyakashipu because Hiranyakashipu and his followers were all atheists. A Brahman should become the priest of a person interested in the advancement of spiritual culture. The very name Śukrācārya, however, indicates a person interested in obtaining benefits for his sons and descendants, regardless of how the money comes. A real Brahman would not become a priest for atheistic men. Tauragya prapitam balam praladam nayako vidam Patayan asatu patyan anyanscha surabalakan. Prahlāda Maharaj was already educated in devotional life, but when his father sent him to those two sons of Śukrācārya to be educated, they accepted him as they accepted him at their school along with the other sons of the asuras. Yattatra guruna proktam shushruve nupapatacha na sadhu manasa mene swaparasar grahashrayam. Prahlāda certainly heard and recited the topics of politics and economics taught by the teachers, but he understood that political philosophy involves considering someone a friend and someone else an enemy, and thus he did not like it. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Politics involves accepting one group of men as enemies and another group as friends. Everything in politics is based on this philosophy, and the entire world, especially at present, is engrossed in it. The public is concerned with friendly countries and friendly groups, or enemy countries and enemy groups. But as stated in Bhagavad Gita, a learned person does not make distinctions between enemies and friends. Devotees, especially, do not create friends and enemies. A devotee sees that every living being is part and parcel of Krishna. Mamai Vangsho Jiva Bhuta 15.7. Therefore, a devotee treats friends and enemies equally by trying to educate them both in Krishna consciousness. Of course, atheistic men do not follow the instructions of pure devotees, but instead consider a devotee their enemy. A devotee, however, never creates a situation of friendship or enmity. Although Prahlāda Maharaj was obliged to hear the instructions of Śaṇḍa and Amarka, he did not like the philosophy of friends and enemies, which forms the basis of politics. He was not interested in this philosophy. Ekada surarat putram ankamaropya pandava prapacha katetam vatsa manyate sadhu yadbhavan. My dear King Yudhishthir, once upon a time, the king of the demons, Hiraṇyakaśipu, took his son Prahlāda on his lap and very affectionately inquired, "My dear son, please let me know what you think is the best of all the subjects you have studied from your teachers." Purport. Hiraṇyakaśipu did not ask his young son anything that would be very difficult for him to answer. Instead, he gave the boy a chance to speak plainly about whatever he thought might be best. Prahlāda Maharaj, of course, being a perfect devotee, knew everything and could say what the best part of life is. In the Vedas it is said, "Yasmin vigyate samam evam vigyatam bhavati." If one properly understands God, he can understand any subject matter very nicely. Sometimes we have to challenge big scientists and philosophers, but by the grace of Krishna, we emerge successful. It is impossible, practically speaking, for ordinary men to challenge scientists or philosophers concerning genuine knowledge, but a devotee can challenge them because the best of everything is known to a devotee by the grace of Krishna. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10.11, Tesham evanukam partham aham ajnanajam tama nashayamyatma bhavasto jnanadipena bhasvata. Krishna, who is situated in the core of everyone's heart as a supersoul, dissipates all the ignorance from the heart of a devotee. As a special favor, he enlightens the devotee with all knowledge by putting before him the torch of knowledge. Prahlāda Maharaj, therefore, knew the best of knowledge, and when his father inquired from him, Prahlāda gave him that knowledge. Prahlāda Maharaj was able to solve the most parts of problems because of his advancement in Krishna consciousness. Because of his advanced Krishna consciousness. Therefore, he replied as follows. This is a very famous verse. Shri Prahlāda Vacha Tat sadhu manye suravarya dehinam sada samudvigna diyam asar grahat hitvatma patam grihamandakupam vanam gato yad dharimashrayeta. Prahlāda Maharaj replied, "O best of the Asuras, king of demons, as far as I have understood from my spiritual master, any person who has accepted a temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest, to the Vana, Vrindavan. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent. And thus, one should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead." I love how Srila Prabhupada writes Vrindavan there, because it doesn't directly say Vrindavan. That's Srila Prabhupada's addition. He just says Vanam. Purport. Hiraṇyakaśipu thought that Prahlāda, being nothing but a small boy with no actual experience, might reply with something pleasing, but nothing practical. Prahlāda Maharaj, however, being an exalted devotee, had acquired all the qualities of education. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam kinchana sarvargunastatra samasate sura harava bhaktasya kuto maharguna manoratena sati dhavato bahi. One who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna consistently manifests all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods. However, he who has no devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no good qualifications because he is engaged by mental concoction in material existence, which is the external feature of the Lord. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 5:18-12. So-called educated philosophers and scientists who are simply on the mental platform cannot distinguish between what is actually sat, eternal, and what is asat, temporary. The Vedic injunction is asato ma jyotirgama. Everyone should give up the platform of temporary existence and approach this eternal platform. The soul is eternal, and topics concerning the eternal soul are actually knowledge. Elsewhere it is said, "Apashyatam atmatattvam griheshu grihamedinam." Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 2:1-2. Those who are attached to the bodily conception of life and who thus stick to life as a grihasta, or householder, on the platform of material sense enjoyment, cannot see the welfare of the eternal soul. Prahlāda Maharaj confirmed this by saying that if one wants success in life, he should immediately understand from the right sources what self-interest is, and how he should mold his life in spiritual consciousness. One should understand himself to be part and parcel of Krishna, and thus completely take shelter of his lotus feet for guaranteed spiritual success. Everyone in the material world is in the bodily conception, struggling hard for existence, life after life. Prahlāda Maharaj therefore recommended that to stop this material condition of repeated birth and death, one should go to the forest, Vana. In the Varnashram system, one first becomes a brahmachari, then a grihasta, a vanaprastha, and finally a sannyasi. Going to the forest means accepting vanaprastha life, which is between grihasta life and sannyas. As confirmed in the Vishnu Puran 3.8.9, Varnashrama charatvata purushena pura puman Vishnur aradhate. By accepting the instruction of Varna and Ashram, one can very easily elevate himself to the platform of worshipping Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, if one remains in the bodily conception, one must rot within this material world, and his life will be a failure. Society must have divisions of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and for spiritual advancement, one must gradually develop as a brahmachari, grihasta, vanaprastha, and sannyasi. Prahlāda Maharaj recommended that his father accept vanaprastha life because as a grihasta, he was becoming increasingly demoniac due to bodily attachment. Prahlāda Maharaj recommended to his father that accepting vanaprastha life would be better than going deeper and deeper into the griham anda kupam, the blind well of material life. The blind well of life as a grihasta. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we therefore invite all the elderly persons of the world to come to Vrindavan and stay there in retired life, making advancement in spiritual Krishna consciousness. There's an open invitation to all the elderly persons in the world. Oh my God. Okay. Anyways, let's see how this goes. Śrīnāraduvaca Śrutva putra giro daitya parapaksha samahita jahasa buddhirbalanam vidyate parabuddhibi. Narad Muni continued, when Prahlāda Maharaj spoke about the path of self-realization and devotional service, thus being faithful to the camp of his father's enemies, Hiraṇyakaśipu, the king of the demons, heard Prahlāda Maharaj's words, and he laughingly said, Thus is the intelligence of children spoiled by the words of the enemy. Purport. Hiraṇyakaśipu, being a demon, would always consider Lord Vishnu and his devotees to be his enemies. Therefore, the word parapaksha, on the side of the enemy, is used here. Hiraṇyakaśipu never agreed with the words of Vishnu or Krishna. Rather, he was angered upon the existence of a Vasudeva Lord. Therefore, where am I? Hiraṇyakaśipu never agreed with the words of Vishnu or Krishna. Rather, he was angered by the intelligence of a Vaishnava. Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, says, Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Bhagavad Gita 1866. Give up all other duties and surrender unto me. But demons like Hiraṇyakaśipu never agree to do this. Therefore Krishna says, Namam dushkritino murda prapadyante naradhama mayaya pahrita jnana asuram bhavamashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita 7:15. The asura bhav, the atheistic nature, is directly represented by Hiraṇyakaśipu. Such persons, being Muda and Naradhama, fools and rascals, the lowest of men, would never accept Vishnu as a supreme and surrender to him. Hiraṇyakaśipu naturally became increasingly angry that his son Prahlāda was being influenced by the camp of the enemies. He therefore asked that saintly persons like Narad not be allowed within the residential quarters of his son, for otherwise Prahlāda would be further spoiled by Vaishnava instructions. Samyak vidayatam balo guru gehe divjatibi Vishnu pakshaya pratichanayar nabidetasya dhiryata. Hiraṇyakaśipu advised his assistants, My dear demons, give complete protection to this boy at the Gurukul, where he is instructed, so that his intelligence will not be further influenced by Vaishnavas who may go there in disguise. Purport. In our Krishna consciousness movement, the tactic of dressing oneself like an ordinary karmi is necessary because everyone in the Zamaniya kingdom is against the Vaishnava teachings. Interesting. Srila Prabhupada's condoning dressing oneself like a... Krishna consciousness is not at all to the liking of the demons Krishna consciousness is not at all to the liking of the demons of the present age. As soon as they see a Vaishnava dressed in saffron garments with beads on his neck and tilak on his forehead, they are immediately irritated. They criticize the Vaishnavas by sarcastically saying, Hare Krishna, and some people also chant Hare Krishna sincerely. In either case, since Hare Krishna is absolute, whether one chants it jokingly or sincerely, it will have its effect. The Vaishnavas are pleased when the demons chant Hare Krishna because this shows that the Hare Krishna movement is taking ground. The greater demons like Hiraṇyakaśipu are always prepared to chastise the Vaishnavas, and they try to make arrangements so that the Vaishnavas will not come to sell their books and preach Krishna consciousness. Thus, what was done by Hiraṇyakaśipu long, long ago is still being done. That is the way of materialistic life. Demons or materialists do not at all like the advancement of Krishna consciousness, and they try to hinder it in many ways. Yet, the preachers of Krishna consciousness must go forward in their Vaishnav dress or any other dress. Yet the preachers of Krishna consciousness must go forward in their Vaishnav dress or any other dress for the purpose of preaching. Chanakya Pandit says that if an honest person deals with a great cheater, it is necessary for him to become a cheater also, not for the purpose of cheating, but to make his preaching successful. Griham anitamahuya prahradam daitaya jaka prashasya shlakshnaya vacha samaprichanta samabhi. When Hiraṇyakashipu's servants brought the boy Prahlāda back to the Gurukul, the place where the Brahmins taught the boys, the priests of the demons Śaṇḍa and Amarka pacified him. With very mild voices and affectionate words, they inquired from him as follows. Purport. Śaṇḍa and Amarka Śaṇḍa and Amarka, the priests of the demons, were eager to know from Prahlāda Maharaj who the Vaishnavas were that came to instruct him in Krishna consciousness. Their purpose was to discover the names of these Vaishnavas. In the beginning, they did not threaten the boy because when threatened, he might not be able to identify the real culprits. Therefore, they very mildly and peacefully inquired as follows. Vatsa Prahlāda Bhadram te satyam kathayamamrisha balan ati kutastubhyam esha buddhi viparyaya. Dear son Prahlāda, all peace and good fortune unto you. Kindly do not speak lies, just reply with the truth. These boys you see are not like you, for they do not speak in a deviant way. How have you learned these instructions? How has your intelligence been spoiled in this way? Purport. Prahlāda Maharaj was still a boy, and therefore his teachers thought that if they pacified the little boy, he would immediately speak the truth, revealing the secret of how the Vaishnavas came there to teach him lessons in devotional service. It was surprising, of course, that in the same school, the other boys of the Daitas were not polluted. Only Prahlāda Maharaj was supposedly polluted by the instructions of the Vaishnavas. The main duty of the teachers was to inquire who those Vaishnavas were that came to teach Prahlāda and spoil his intelligence. Bodhi Veda Parakrita Utahote Svato Bhavat Bhanyatam Shrutukamanam Gurunam Kulanandana. O best of your family, has this pollution of your intelligence been brought about by you, or by the enemies? We are all your teachers and are very eager to hear about this. Please tell us the truth. Purport. Prahlāda Maharaj's teachers were astonished that a small boy could speak such exalted Vaishnava philosophy. Therefore, they inquired about the Vaishnavas who stealthily taught it to him, in order that these Vaishnavas might be arrested and killed in the presence of Maharaj's father, Hiraṇyakashipu. Shri Prahlāda Uvacha Parashvas Chetasargaha Pungsam Yan Mayaya Krita Vimohita Diyam Drishtas Tasmai Bhagavate Namah. Okay, Prahlāda Maharaj replied, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose external energy has created the distinctions of my friend and my enemy by deluding the intelligence of men. Indeed, I am now actually experiencing this. Although I have previously heard of it from authorities, now I'm actually experiencing this, although I've previously heard of it from authoritative sources." Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 5.18, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gabhihastini Shuni Chaiva Sapake Cha Pandita Samadarshina. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater outcast. Pandita. Okay, those who are actually learned, the equipoised, advanced devotees who have full knowledge of everything, do not see any living entity as an enemy or a friend. Instead, with broader vision, they see that everyone is part of Krishna. And as confirmed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jivera Sarupa hoy Krishnera Nityadas. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 20:108. Every living entity, being part of the Supreme Lord, is meant to serve the Lord, just as every part of the body is meant to serve the whole body. As servants of the Supreme Lord, all living entities are one, but a Vaishnava, because of his natural humility, addresses every other living entity as Prabhu. A Vaishnava sees other servants to be so advanced that he has much to learn from them. Thus he accepts all other devotees of the Lord as Prabhus, masters. Although everyone is a servant of the Lord, one Vaishnava servant, because of humility, sees another servant as his master. Understanding of the master begins from understanding of the spiritual master. Yasya prasadar bhagavat prasado, yasya prasada nagati kutopi, By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Shakshad dharitena samasta shastre uktastata bhavyata eva sarvi kintu prabhoya priya eva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord, because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all the revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari, Krishna. The spiritual master, the servant of God, is engaged in the most confidential service of the Lord, namely, delivering all the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya, in which one thinks, "This person is my enemy, and that one is my friend." Actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the friend of all living entities, and all living entities are eternal servants of the Supreme Lord. Oneness is possible through this understanding, not through artificially thinking that every one of us is God or equal to God. The true understanding is that God is the Supreme Master and that all of us are servants of the Supreme Lord and are therefore on the same platform. This has already been taught to Prahlāda Maharaj by his spiritual master, Narad. But Prahlāda was none the less surprised by how a bewildered soul thinks one person his enemy and another his friend. As long as one adheres to the philosophy of duality, thinking one person a friend and another an enemy, he should be understood to be in the clutches of Maya. The Mayavadi philosopher who thinks that all living entities are God and are therefore one are also mistaken. No one is equal to God. The servant cannot be equal to the master. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, The master is one, and the servants are also one. But the distinction between the master and the servant must continue even in the liberated stage. In the conditioned stage, we think that some living beings are our friends, whereas we think that some living beings are our friends, whereas others are enemies, and thus we are in duality. In the liberated stage, however, the conception is that God is the master and that all living entities, being servants of God, are one. Yeah, maybe it's better if I stand. Let's see. Sayadanu vrata pungsam pashubodir vibidyate anya esha tatanyoham iti bheda katasati. When the Supreme Person of... Okay, so this is Prahlāda Maharaj speaking now, yeah. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with the living entity because of his devotional service, one becomes a pundit and does not make distinctions between enemies, friends, and himself. Intelligently, he then thinks, every one of us is an eternal servant of God, and therefore we are not different from one another. Purport. When Prahlāda Maharaj's teachers and demoniac father asked him how his intelligence had been polluted, Prahlāda Maharaj said, as far as I am concerned, my intelligence has not been polluted. Rather, by the grace of my spiritual master and by the grace of my Lord, Krishna, I have now learned that no one is my enemy and no one is my friend. We are all actually eternal servants of Krishna, but under the influence of the external energy, we think that we are separately situated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead as friends and enemies of one another. This mistaken idea has been corrected, and therefore, unlike ordinary human beings, I no longer think that I am God and that others are my friends and enemies. Now I am rightly thinking that everyone is an eternal servant of God and that our duty is to serve the Supreme Master, for then we shall stand on the platform of oneness as servants. Demons think of everyone as a friend or enemy, but Vaishnavas say that since everyone is a servant of the Lord, everyone is on the same platform. Therefore, a Vaishnava treats other living entities neither as friends nor as enemies, but instead tries to spread Krishna consciousness, teaching everyone that we are all one. They're teaching everyone that we are all one as servants of the Supreme Lord, but are uselessly wasting our valuable lives by creating nations, communities, and other groups of friends and enemies. Everyone should come to the platform of Krishna consciousness and thus feel oneness as a servant of the Lord. Although there are 8,400,000 species of life, a Vaishnava feels this oneness. The Ishopanishad advises, ekatvam anupashyata. A devotee should see the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be situated in everyone's heart, and should also see every living entity as an eternal servant of the Lord. This vision is called ekatvam, oneness. Although there is a relationship of master and servant, both master and servant are one because of their spiritual identity. This is also called ekatvam. Thus, the conception of ekatvam for the Vaishnavas is different from that of the Mayavadis. Hiraṇyakaśipu asked Prahlāda Maharaj how he had become antagonistic to his family. When a family member is killed by an enemy, all the members of the family would naturally be inimical to the murderer. But Hiraṇyakaśipu saw that Prahlāda had become friendly with the murderer. Therefore, he asked, Who has created this kind of intelligence in you? Have you developed this consciousness by yourself? Since you are a small boy, someone must have induced you to think in this way. Prahlāda Maharaj wanted to reply that an attitude favorable toward Vishnu can develop only when the Lord is favorable. Sa yadanuvrata. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is the friend of everyone. Suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantamrichati. The Lord is never an enemy to any of the millions of living entities, but is always a friend to everyone. This is true understanding. If one thinks that the Lord is an enemy, his intelligence is pashu buddhi, the intelligence of an animal. He falsely thinks, I am different from my enemy, and my enemy is different from me. The enemy has done this, and therefore my duty is to kill him. This misconception is described in this verse as Bheda Gatasati. The actual fact is that everyone is a servant of the Lord, as confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita by Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jiver Sarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 20:108. As servants of the Lord, we are one, and there can be no questions of enmity or friendship. If one actually understands that every one of us is a servant of the Lord, where is the question of enemy or friend? Everyone should be friendly for the service of the Lord. Everyone should praise another's service to the Lord and not be proud of his own service. This is the way of Vaishnava thinking, Vaikuntha thinking. There may be rivalries and apparent competition between servants in performing service, but in the Vaikuntha planets, the service of another servant is appreciated, not condemned. This is Vaikuntha competition. There is no question of enmity between servants. Everyone should be allowed to render service to the Lord to the best of his ability, and everyone should appreciate the service of others. Such are the activities of Vaikuntha. Since everyone is a servant, everyone is on the same platform and is allowed to serve the Lord according to his ability. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasvachaham hridisannavishto matasmritirgyanam apohanam cha. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart, giving dictation according to the attitude of the servant. However, the Lord gives different dictation to the non-devotees and devotees. The non-devotees challenge the authority of the Supreme Lord, and therefore the Lord dictates in such a way that the non-devotees forget the Lord's service, life after life, and are punished by the laws of nature. But when a devotee very sincerely wants to render service to the Lord dictates in a different way. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 10:10, Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam prittipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Everyone is actually a servant, not an enemy or friend, and everyone is working under different directions from the Lord, who directs each living entity according to his mentality. Let's just read this one verse. Sa esha atma swaparetta buddhibhir duratayanu kramano nirupyate moyanti yad partmani vedavadino pramadayo hyesha bhinati me matim. Persons who always think in terms of enemy and friend are unable to ascertain the supersoul within themselves. Not to speak of them, even such exalted persons as Lord Brahma, who are fully conversant with the Vedic literature, are sometimes bewildered in following the principles of devotional service. The same Supreme Personality of Godhead who has created this situation has certainly given me the intelligence to take the side of your so-called enemy. Purport. Prahlāda Maharaj admitted frankly, my dear teachers, you wrongly think that Lord Vishnu is your enemy. But because he is favorable towards me, I understand that he is the friend of everyone. You may think that I have taken the side of your enemy, but factually, he has bestowed a great favor upon me. Okay, so we'll end here. It's 8 o'clock. We'll continue from 14 tomorrow. Oh, that's a beautiful verse. O Brahmins, teachers, as iron attracted by a magnet stone moves automatically toward the magnet, my consciousness, having been changed by his will, is attracted by Lord Vishnu, who carries a disc in his hand. Thus, I have no independence. Okay, we'll read that tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari, Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Maha-Bhagavat Srila Gorksharas Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki Jai, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Dashraghunath Shara Gosai Prabhu ki Jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Braja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Shri Kartik Vrat ki Jai, Urja Vrat ki Jai, Urjeshwari Shri Vishwabhanu Nandini Shrimati Radha Thakurani ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Vigna Vinashankari Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan ki Jai, Bhakta Pravar Shri Prahlāda Maharaj ki Jai, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Padadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyai Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandava pranams everybody. Hari Bol. Sorry for falling asleep a bit today. Yesterday was an intense day and I didn't get to sleep in the middle of the day. When I don't get my afternoon nap, I get really tired. Right, Hari Bol. Yes, Prahlāda Maharaj did stay in his mother's womb for many years. Yep. All right, Dandavat pranams everybody. See you all tomorrow. Hari Bol. Oh, and tomorrow is Srila Vamana Goswami Maharaj's and Srila Trivikram Goswami Maharaj's disappearance day, isn't it? And then the day after that is Srila Prabhupada's day. And the day after that is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Goswami Maharaj's day. So maybe what I'll do is I'm just going to read a little bit from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam just so that we keep a flow going. But I'll also read about Srila Vamana Goswami Maharaj and Srila Trivikram Goswami Maharaj. I'll just read it. Yeah. All right. Hari Bol.